showing you how to introduce yourself to somebody in a way that's really powerful. It cuts down, it doesn't waste your time, and it creates interest. All right? So you're creating interest, not looking for people who are already interested. And that's a beautiful tool to use. One of the things you want to do, if I'll put it in couch it in going to a chamber event, okay? But you can use this anywhere, anytime, any setting. It always works, okay? But if you go to a chamber event, one of the first things I want to encourage you to do is say hi to the people you know, but don't stop and talk to them, okay? Because you got work to do. It'll take you about 20, 25 minutes. Go find people. Just find, I don't know you, and go and just head that way. Don't even think about anything else. Just go head that way. Then when you're done with your networking and the strategy I'm giving you, then you can go talk to your friends. And you'll find that you'll walk out of there and you'll be so happy because you'll get so much work done, and you'll be less frustrated, and you won't wake up tomorrow morning and go, why didn't I go meet people? Okay? Because you know what happens when you start talking to your friends? You're going to stay there talking to your friends. Okay? So you want to get some work done. And here's the way to do it. The first thing is, go walk up to somebody and introduce your name. And then ask them, and you are, and your name is. And when we have this custom that we reach out and shake your hand. When you do that, if they're not talking to somebody else, you don't want to be rude, they will reach their hand and they will automatically say, I'm Step with Turnaround Solutions. If you said, I'm Claudia with ABC Realtors, or Keller Williams, they're going to reciprocate as soon as you put your hand out there. It's just the way it happens, okay? It's one of the ways the mind works. As soon as you find out their name, you have to think fairly quickly, is this somebody I could possibly be doing business with, or is this somebody that I probably couldn't be doing business with? If it's somebody you probably could not be doing business with, it's not the right target, then you want to say, it was very nice to meet you, and go find your target. Because the goal is find the target. Find somebody that could possibly do business with, a profile that looks like for you, okay? So,
do you have a key on how to remember someone's name? Do you have any solution to that? I have a real problem with that.
Yeah, use it right after they tell you. That's the best tool, best memory tool, is you'd say, I'm Step and you are?
Becky.
Yeah, you Becky. And I'd say, well, Becky, and then I go right into the next one. Yes, you have to repeat it back at least 3 or 4 times. If you don't, you're going to do what everybody else does, because people remember the last thing said. They don't remember your name either.
Right.
Unless you just have a really, like I met this gal the other day, and her name was Toy. Well, I'll never forget that. I don't know a girl named Toy. When you find your target audience, to what you said, you use their name right afterwards.
Okay.
So you'd say, hi, my name is Step, and you are, or what is your name, and they're going to tell you their name, and this is where you're going to go next. If they're the right audience, you're going to say, I work with a lot of people. I work with people just like you in your industry, or just like you in your position. I work with people just like you. I work with a lot of people just like you. I specialize in working with people like you. Okay? What are you telling them at that point? You're creating interest. That's what you're doing. You're creating interest, because people are interested in talking to people, because now, well, what do you do for people like me? See, that's what comes out of that. Okay? You got to remember that the time that goes by, as the words go by, people are processing what you're saying. Okay? So you can either process something that causes them to think, or they're going to send out some information that doesn't capture their imagination. This is what this does. It's structured to capture attention. Okay? When you say, I work with a lot of people in your position or industry, they always ask me these 2 or 3 questions. Okay? So by the time you get here, there's been about probably 6, 7 seconds went by. In 7 seconds, they're thinking what? They break their prayer and they're thinking, what kind of questions? And once you know who your audience is, then you can throw out questions. And if you're in real estate, you could say, well, they're always asking me questions like, and you throw out the questions people normally ask you relative to who you're talking to. Are interest rates going to continue to go up and down, or what's up with that? Or is this a good time for me to list my house? I hear this is a buyer's market. Should I look into that? Because the only thing you're doing is creating interest. Well, questions create interest, not presentation. The other way people do this that actually falls flat is they show up with these questions as a presentation. They're not asking you, they're telling you. And people are going, oh Lord, I wish that person get out of here. So this, when you ask, you have to do at least 2 questions right here. If I met somebody, I would say, they're always asking me questions like this. You know, my salespeople come up with a lot of excuses. Are they real excuses or they just can't sell? Because that's people who own businesses are always the people they struggle with in companies are salespeople, because they don't know if they're performing, if they're not performing, because they don't know how to manage them. You see, so I throw out things that a business owner could possibly be interested in a form of a question. Does that make sense? Then I'm going to ask you, are these some of the things you're thinking about? And here's what you're going to get: yes. No, but I am thinking about this. And they're going to come up with an interest statement that's camped on this, what you're talking about. Or they're going to say not at all. So you're going to yes, no, and it helps you avoid the maybes, because you don't want a maybe. I want to create interest. And then what's going to happen is, if they say yes, you don't talk about anything else. You just say, well, let's go ahead and exchange information. I'll give you a call next week. And then what do? Move on to the next call. And in 25 minutes, you have created more opportunity in 25 minutes than going to anything you've ever gone to and waiting for opportunity to show up to you. This is how people create opportunity, by creating interest. Does that make sense? That'll be helpful to you? It's a little different dialogue, but it's dialogue that creates interest and it captures the imagination. Because now I'm curious, how do you do that? I am interested in that. I just didn't think about it. That's what you're doing with this. Does that make sense? So in wrapping up, number 1, when you're getting people's interest in prospecting, and then when you come back next time, I'm going to show you, I'm going to start showing you the structure of your first meeting. Anytime you meet with somebody, use this structure. Number 1, questions get interest. Presentations don't create interest. Okay. Now, if I'm interested in, right now, I'm very, very interested in a particular type of car. Okay. Well, now that I'm interested in that car, I'm interested in learning more about that car. So I'm in the education mode. Okay. But questions, when you're asking people questions capture their imagination. That creates interest. Okay? Because remember, it's interest and then what? Educate. Interest and then educate. Stories get interest. You already know this. So you want to use stories in literature, websites. Client testimonials have to be in the format that I gave you: problem, solution, results. You want to have at least 3 or 4 memorized. So depending upon the audience, you could say, you know, I work with a lot of people like you. For instance, you're going into a story. You see that? That's what the segue is. Use the results of those stories in emails, a lot of different types of correspondence. Okay? That's point number 3. That results get their interest, stories get interest, and questions get interest. All these things, when you become a master at this, these interest statements come from that value star and come from people that want to move away or towards. That's where this interest comes from. And when you know that, you can create a lot of opportunity for yourself. Does that make sense? That's smart prospecting.